Oh, 240 FPS gaming here on the MacBook Pro M5, everybody. Hello. This is awesome. But it's in a tiny window. What's up and welcome back to another episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Today, me and Rocky are going to be walking you through a detailed comparison between the MacBook Pro and the Zephyrus G14. Now, the MacBook features the latest and greatest silicon from Apple, the M5 chip, and there are so many good things about this chip, but one major area of weakness in the Apple lineup is still gaming. And so today we're pitting the MacBook Pro against the Zephyrus G14. Now, when I got these, they were priced at $15.99. Currently, they can be had on sale, with the Zephyrus G14 usually having a better sale price of $12.99 during the recent Black Friday sales. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a detailed unboxing comparison between the Mac experience and the Windows experience, followed by me testing over 250 games from my Steam library to figure out which ones can actually run on the MacBook Pro M5. And finally, after figuring out 10 games that are compatible in both Mac and Windows, of course, Windows, all the games are compatible, but finding those 10 games was a little bit difficult because out of my huge Steam library, only a handful were actually working. And in the second half of this video, we're going to be doing a detailed series of benchmarks comparing the MacBook Pro M5 against the latest entry-level CPUs from AMD and the entry-level RTX 5060 with 8 gigs of VRAM. Overall, this MacBook Pro M5 and the Zephyrus G14 with the RTX 5060 are probably the two most comparable laptops in the entire ecosystem between Mac and PC. So this is going to be an interesting, in-depth, head-to-head experience, and I hope you stick around for the entire video. Rocky is gonna whack me in the face with a tail. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. Here we go. True unboxing experience between a MacBook Pro and the Zephyrus G14 RTX 5060 version. Let's do the MacBook first. M5 with 16 gigs of system RAM, 512 gig SSD. That's what you get for $15.99. That's not very much RAM, and that's not a very big SSD for $1,600. We got MacBook on the bottom, front, very clean looking emblem here. I do like the style. Cool. Here is the MacBook lifted up, nice and balanced, easy to grab. I like that. And yeah, this thing is weighty. Let's first go ahead and check out everything else that's included in the box here. A box of stickers or a little container. MacBook Pro. We've got Thunderbolt 4 support on the USB-C. Notice there's no Thunderbolt 5 support. I believe you need the M4 Pro or the M4 Max chips if you want Thunderbolt 5 currently. Another little notice. The power plug that's included. It's very faint, but you can see it says 70-watt USB-C power adapter right there. Let's check out the braided cable that this came with in a little more detail. It feels really nice, very high quality feeling to the cable. 6-foot long cable from the outlet to wherever you need to plug in, which that's not very long. Most PCs, like Windows, they're like 10 to 12 feet long, probably on average. Let's go ahead and set it down, one finger opening, and we do get a little screen cover / keyboard cover. Laptop right now is all kind of electrostaticky. If I unplug this, it's gone. Yeah, so it's just, there's no proper grounding on the plug. So we're gonna start our time. We're gonna go through the setup and we're gonna start calculating and tracking all of our clicks. Total time was about 8 minutes. And that was with me basically reading the entire menu. About 19, 20 clicks to get through the whole thing. Overall, I am very impressed with the initial setup phase. It was very quick and very efficient. This grill right here, I think, is for the speakers. Very interesting design. We have our speaker grills right here on the right and left sides of the laptop's keyboard. That's really cool. And you can make calls and send texts on your iPhone, which syncs really seamlessly, and at least in my experience last time. iPhone mirroring, so I think you can control your iPhone well here, just clicking on the screen. Under system settings, you can adjust a lot of your basic system settings here. The other thing about this machine is that it's going to get just really, really good battery life. Like general web browsing, like 20 hours probably. And if you're doing moderate to heavy tasks, you can still get a easy all day battery life. Overall, I'm really impressed with this unboxing setup. Let's move on to the Zephyrus G14. This is the Zephyrus G14 RTX 5060, base price $1599, exactly the same base price. Not as classy as the MacBook in terms of initial opening with the pull tabs. I think this could be improved, but the plastic wrap on the flip side it means it's going to protect the laptop from water a lot better. Now look at this classy box. Look at the ROG logo here with this little etched in shiny parts. I really like that. ROG Zephyrus. We got the ROG logo. Also this second little box that it comes with. Here is the power adapter. So it's a 200-watt power brick with pretty sizable cable length. This guy is probably 2 feet long. From the power adapter right here, it's about 5.5 feet long if I were to guess. Combined together, it's still not as long as I ideally like. I much prefer like 5 feet and 5 feet, but at least you got a long cable from the power adapter to the laptop. Dropped out really easily. Swing, no problem there. Blah, blah, blah. So lots of different warnings right there. Congratulations on your Asus product purchase. If you're in the United States and you get the US version of this laptop, I believe typically it's sold through Best Buy almost exclusively. So the great thing about that is that you can get in-person support at the Best Buy location. Here's some warranty information. I believe this is just a 12-month warranty for both the MacBook and the Zephyrus. But of course you could get upgraded warranties through Best Buy or through Apple, depending on if you want Apple Care or not. So this says, charge your notebook for 3 hours when using it for the first time. Use only with the bundled power adapter for charging. Little mini guide here. We've got our top view with our slash lighting. We've got our power button, audio speakers, keyboard, Windows Copilot, touchpad, caps lock indicator light, Windows Hello, array microphones, camera and IR sensors, display panel. Our ports here, we got the microSD, USB 3 Gen 2 port, USB 3 Gen 2 Type-C with display port and power delivery. The USB 4, which is equivalent in speed to the Thunderbolt 4 and with all of the power delivery and display out supports. You also have our HDMI 2.1. Lots of great ports on this laptop, and I would say better ports on the G14 than the MacBook in terms of total flexibility. But I do like that it's a full-size SD card reader on the MacBook for sure. Beautiful CNC milled aluminum chassis. It looks gorgeous. In my opinion, this is just as beautifully designed as the MacBook, and it feels really, really solid in the hand, just like the MacBook does. The old one finger lift, no problemo. Plug it in. It needs you to plug in first and then press the power. We are ready to go. Hey, we're in. 33 clicks and 31 minutes to get into Windows. All right, so here's all the different applications that are installed in this computer by default. You get Microsoft 365 pre-installed. Did they get rid of McAfee/Norton? There's no antivirus on this computer for the first time in a long time. There's no pre-installed bloatware from an antivirus on an Asus computer. That is amazing. Thank you, Asus. It's the right choice. Wow. I mean, literally, you cannot see the MacBook underneath. It is so close in size. Let's see, is the MacBook just a tiny bit smaller? Exactly the same footprint. I was thinking the G14 was honestly a little bit smaller. Maybe the G14 is just a little bit thinner. At least it appears to be a little thinner. I don't know if it actually is. They look so similar. The way the power plugs actually work though are, I think, a lot more superior on the MacBook. So like the way this snaps in, it is in there, really good until it's not. And you also get the power indicator right on the MacBook, which will let you know if it's charged or it's charging. I believe it turns green when it's fully charged up. When you put the Asus power adapter, it is reversible as well, but there's some wiggle room here. I definitely prefer the MacBooks. There's no wiggle to this at all until it actually fully disengages. Okay, so one thing that the Zephyrus has here is the slash lighting. It's like a LED lighting effect that looks really cool. MacBook does not have any illumination on the back, but it's a nice clean look on both machines. We can see the ventilation on the bottom of the Zephyrus is quite extensive. You know, lots of intakes for the fans, which will be exhausted right here. Dual fans on the Zephyrus, and the MacBook here. Basically, I imagine this is probably intake as well as speaker ventilation. The speaker noise come out, intake of air, outtake of exhaust, and there's only one fan on the MacBook, two fans on the Zephyrus G14. Let's also take a look at the keyboard and trackpad in depth as well. So you can see the trackpad, wow, it's like identically sized almost. This is a glass trackpad, this is a glass trackpad, but this is haptic feedback based, which means there's a little motor that vibrates when you press it, okay? And it's capacitive touch driven, where I'm not sure what kind of touch driving nature this trackpad is, but it's certainly not a haptic feedback when you click it. So this is controlled similar to how an iPhone is controlled. This is controlled, I believe, by the physical touch of your finger to the pad itself, which is just not as accurate as fully capacitive touch and haptic feedback driven. So I still think the trackpad on the MacBook is going to be better. Overall functionality for a Windows trackpad, the G14 is phenomenal. The keyboard, the main thing on Mac keyboards that I dislike is the control key here is swapped for FN. This drives me crazy. I like type really fast and I need to press control a lot to be able to jump between words, and you cannot do that with the FN. So caps lock has a little indicator light for both of these, but the light is better quality on the MacBook. It's brighter. The Mac keyboard light is turned on automatically. It's controlled automatically. I don't think you can probably turn it on artificially. Notice how it also automatically dimmed the screen. In daylight, it'll boost the screen's brightness even more. Secondary keyboard functions, you have brightness down, up, your finder, spotlight search, microphone mute, sleep, rewind, pause, fast forward, mute, volume down, volume up, and then you have your Touch ID over here for the MacBook. On the Zephyrus G14, you have your mute, volume down, volume up, keyboard brightness down, keyboard brightness up, keyboard lighting mode switch, fan mode, snipping tool to take a screenshot, brightness down, brightness up, screen mirroring, then you have your trackpad disable, sleep, airplane mode, and delete keys. I think the functionality on the Windows side of the secondary functions is a lot better, and the keyboard spacing and keycap is very similarly sized, and I think these keys feel amazing on both laptops. From a usability perspective, I think these laptops are right in line with one another with no major pros and cons either way. It's neck and neck. What it comes down to, I think, is compatibility and performance. Here is the MacBook Pro lineup for the 14-inch category. If you want more storage space, equal storage space, it's going to be $17.99 to what we have in the Zephyrus G14. 16 gigs and 1 terabyte storage, which is what matches the storage and specs of the G14. And keep in mind that both of these are likely to have little sales, especially coming up over Black Friday. The lowest price we've seen on this laptop so far this year is around $1,350. So that's what I would target, right around that $1,400 range for the RTX 5060. Eventually, of course, these will go on sale. So this MacBook Pro, 14-inch, 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, 16 gigs of memory, $17.99. $15.99 is the one that we have today, only 512 gig storage, but it's just the SSD size, it's different. You also have 24 gig memory option with the M5. If you want to go upgrade to a higher tier, like the M4 Pro, you can get a 16-core, 12-core CPU, or a 14-core CPU, 20-core GPU, or the M4 Max can go all the way up to a 32-core GPU, and I believe it even goes up to a 40-core GPU in the 16-inch chassis. And those, of course, will be more powerful GPUs by at least a fair margin. So if you jump to the 16-inch, just to take a quick peek, yeah, you can get to a 40-core, 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU with 48 gigs of unified memory, but that's $4,000. Obviously, that would be quite a bit more powerful for gaming or other 3D tasks like Blender. Pros, Cons, first of all, I love Apple's privacy focus in the ecosystem. Like if you want to have privacy, Apple's probably going to be way better. Windows is basically full selling to advertisers, in my opinion, spamming their own products at you, letting other companies spam their products at you, like Norton Antivirus and other things. I do feel like macOS's notifications and pop-ups and privacy control sometimes are a little too much, but generally speaking, I've been very impressed with macOS. And Windows, I think, is also generally very easy to use. I think it's easier to use, more intuitive than the macOS, at least from a long-term Windows user. I have owned 2 MacBook Pros in the past, but that was a while ago. The heat generated on the M5 is a lot less than the heat generated from the RTX 5060 and the Ryzen chip, which is nice if you're going to be using the laptop in your lap a lot. And I would say performance on battery life is going to be good on both, but longevity of performance, like if you're going to be doing high performance tasks like gaming, video editing on the go, the MacBook I think will be more superior in those types of tasks. The Zephyrus will be pretty dang good on the go as well, especially compared to most Windows laptops. For a battery life comparison, I did do a gaming test. I ran the games for 15 minutes, and basically about every 10% of a MacBook Pro's battery life, you get about 15 minutes of gameplay. On the Zephyrus, it was not that good. It was only like a little bit over an hour. For general use case, like browsing the web, watching Netflix, both are going to be really good, but the MacBook, of course, is going to be hitting more like 15 to 20 hours on average, maybe even more, depending on how optimized and how lightweight the task is. Huge range in battery life, especially for the Zephyrus, whereas the MacBook also has a huge range. I mean, if you play games on it, you're only looking at about 2.5, maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes of gameplay compared to the Zephyrus, where, you know, you could get about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours on the integrated GPU, or maybe an hour. So it's really gonna, what you do on it is gonna kill the battery much faster or much slower. In general, the MacBook is far superior in the battery life department, partially because you get like the exact same performance, whether you're on battery or whether you're plugged in. We only have a 70-watt power brick on the MacBook. That's all you need. And so when the MacBook ramps up its power, it's still not really maxing out what a lithium-ion battery can provide to the chip. So you're basically still getting full levels of performance compared to the Zephyrus, which could ramp way beyond what a lithium-ion battery could provide. So you're only getting like most of its potential performance. Okay, taking apart a MacBook Pro 14 for the first time. Yes, okay. It's a star-shaped P5 screwdriver head. Okay, so this one on the back is longer. So you definitely got to be careful which screws. I'm surprised. Is there really only 8 screws to this? It recommends using a suction cup to lift off the case slightly, and then slide the bottom panel towards the hinge to release the back clips. Okay. Nice. All right. To open this sucker up, unscrew all the screws. Then you need to use a tool kind of like this one. Right here, you can push here and here, pop the front, and then do the corners, and then pull forward. It's so dang hard to open. You can probably replace the battery packs. Looks like it's 6 separated battery cells. Super interesting. Look at the speakers on this guy are huge. They're in the very front corner and also extending backward and up. Audio bouncing out from the keyboard deck on the left and right side. Now we have a single fan with a big fat heat pipe. Here's the M5 right here. I'm guessing we got the SSD and RAM over here. It's very beautifully, minimally designed, even on the inside. I must say, that's impressive. Let's do the same thing for the Zephyrus G14. Yeah, we're looking at a T5 for the Zephyrus. So there's more screws on the Zephyrus. Okay. All right, so last screw I always do is the pop-up screw. This is the one in the right. This creates a little gap so we can slide our pry tool in. I'm gonna lift the pop-up screw. There we go. All right. Voila. Okay, so taking a look at the cooling system, it's much beefier here. Also notice that our battery, it does have kind of 4 main cells, I think here, but it is all connected. So easier to replace. So we've got a 3-fan design in this RTX 5060 laptop, which is kind of surprising. RTX 5060 is going to be here. Our Ryzen 9 270 will be here. We've got a few VRMs here spread out. Our SSD is right here and it's fully upgradable. You can swap that. Then you have your Wi-Fi card right here if you want to swap that or upgrade that. Just be very careful with the antennas when you do so. We've got our speakers right here, and there are speakers that are upward firing as well on the other side of the motherboard. And our fan exhaust with heat fins are right here. I love the design overall. This is going to be not as beefy as the 5070 Ti thermal design. The thermal design will be a bit different. There's the MacBook. There's the G14. Ports comparison. For the MacBook, we got our MagSafe charger, 70 watts, 2 Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports with power delivery, so you can also charge your laptop with these. Dual combo headphone port on the right side, HDMI 2.1, Thunderbolt 4, and a full-size UHS 2 SD card reader. No USB-A, which has irked me to no end because I do not have a USB-C mouse. So I only am using a Bluetooth mouse right now. The G14's ports. On the left side, we have our reversible Asus power plug. Then we have an HDMI 2.1 connected to the NVIDIA GPU. We have our Thunderbolt 4 equivalent USB 4. So it's a similar specs to a Thunderbolt 4. So 40 gigabit connection with over, I think it's 100 watt USB-C power delivery. Then we have USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 and our headphone combo port. So we have a USB-A and a USB-C basically combo over here on the left side. And then on the right side, we have another USB-A, and this is my fast connection USB-A to the Logitech mouse so that it's like no latency, extremely good for gaming. And then we have a USB-C 3.2 that's connected directly to the NVIDIA GPU. So the USB-C on the left side over here is connected directly to the integrated GPU. So you can use this USB-C out to a projector when you're in battery life integrated iGPU mode. And then if you want to connect to a big monitor through USB-C with your NVIDIA card, you can connect to it on the right side. And then we have a micro SD card slot over here on the right side as well. So I love the flexibility that you get with the Asus ports, but the MacBook, you don't need to worry about because all of the ports are connected to the same GPU. There's no dual GPU setup, and that also helps with battery life because it's already an optimized mode. With the Zephyrus, you have to go to the menu over here, the system settings, and then you press GPU performance, and then you could go to standard mode or eco mode. Eco mode disables the NVIDIA GPU, and that allows you to have good battery life. And this will also let you shut down all these applications that are using the NVIDIA GPU in the background. So you click stop all. Display comparison. So I have tested both of these laptops with my Spider 5 Elite tool. Exact same tool, tested in the exact same way. The results are kind of surprising to me. For the G14, we're looking at 100% of sRGB, or really it's more than 100% sRGB, 94% of Adobe RGB, and 88% of the P3 color gamut. And keep in mind the Spider 5 Elite underestimates the color gamut by about 7 to 8%. That means we're doing 100% of sRGB, 100% of Adobe RGB, and about 95% of the P3 color gamut. Now, for the MacBook, surprisingly, it was worse. 98% of sRGB, but basically that's 100% because of the 7%. Then we have 84% of Adobe RGB, so only 91% Adobe RGB, and then 87% of the P3, around 94% of the P3. The one thing that I found very surprising about these results is that, I was expecting the MacBook to have a significantly better quality display, and that's just not the case. It appears to be identical quality display. So 370 nits max brightness. That's sustained nits brightness for the MacBook, almost exactly the same result. 367 nits. And the contrast is also exactly the same. I'm guessing these are Samsung displays if I were to guess. So they're probably literally from the same factory. They're both great displays. Now, 370 nits may not sound that much, but because these are OLED, That means that they can actually get to higher peaky brightness. Apple claims 1600 nits, which is obviously insanely bright, but not at all what you're gonna get in a sustained scenario. You know, we're in a sustained brightness scenario where half the display is bright, half the display is dark. For display, we could also do a quick YouTube side by side. But they are so close in image quality. It does seem like the MacBook is maybe tuned to a little higher contrast level, probably like a little bit peakier brights, I would say, when you look at the brightest sources of light. But if you just tweak some of those things in the settings here. Okay, so right now it's on default, but if I were to switch it to vivid, for example, we could probably get more brightness to pop out. I imagine there's definitely ways to tune the screen for the MacBook too. So just know that going into this, that both displays functionally have very similar stats. The display quality is so close. Don't make the decision based on the display, even if Mac or Apple lists some crazy specs next to their display. Speaker comparison. Ambient sound right around 46 decibels. Peter Spacey roar. All right, so first, MacBook. Here we go. Zephyrus G14, RTX 5060 version, which may have lower quality speakers than the higher end version. Clearly, the MacBook Pro has better clarity, pretty similar levels of bass, I would say. The MacBook may be having slightly better bass, and total volume was a bit louder. Faded Aeon half-life from the MacBook. That sounded really great on the MacBook. Let's check Faded Aeon half-life on the Zephyrus. I mean, that sounded really good too. I do think the clarity is definitely better on the MacBook still. La La La, Love You Like, Deuce Williams. And let's check the G14. I think it sounds really good on both, but if I were to give them a rating, the MacBook is still king. Probably the MacBook Pro 16 Probably has even better speakers because these do not sound like the best quality MacBook speakers I've ever heard. 14-inch is probably just a lower quality speaker system too. Total volume is not that loud. Like our decibel meter was only hitting into the mid 80s, and we've seen the MacBook in the past hit over 90 on the 16. So at least I have in the past. Anyway, the G14, I would rate the G14 at 9.1, and that's this one I think is very, very good still. Lots of bass, pretty dang clear mids and highs, but the MacBook significantly better. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10, and probably, like the higher end MacBook's gonna get like that 10 out of 10 rating. In terms of the best quality speakers that you can get in a laptop. It's very impressive overall. Both speaker systems are really, really good. Geekbench 6 scores. Let's take a look at what we got. All right, and I did not make comparison graphs for this because I do think this is one of the crappiest benchmarks. So I ran the Geekbench score twice for the MacBook to give you an idea of performance in Metal and OpenCL. And these are with the laptop plugged in. So on the left, we have the OpenCL score, 48,655. And then similar test, the Metal score, 76,068. And these are both with the MacBook plugged in, though I would expect identical performance, whether it's plugged in or not. Now, I do not see results for the Geekbench being plugged in, so let's go ahead and run that again. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Geekbench GPU score with RTX 5060 for the Zephyrus G16, 107,976. So compared to the OpenCL to OpenCL, we're getting more than double the performance with the G14, but the Metal engine, of course, getting about 70% of the performance or so, a little over 70%. G14 is 42% faster with the RTX 5060 compared to the CPU score. That's where the MacBook is going to shine. This is with the lower tier Ryzen 9 270, right? This is the downgraded CPU compared to the CPU you get in the more expensive, like 5070 Ti version, comes with the Ryzen 9 HX370, which has 4 more cores and has higher boost clock speeds and more cores. So it's going to get quite a bit higher score. So depending on which one you go with the G14, you'll get more CPU performance. So the Mac score for single core, which is extremely high, 4190 versus 2520 on the G14, and 17693 for a multi-score versus 12201 on the multi-score. Okay, so very impressive Geekbench score, but again, I don't think Geekbench is a very good benchmark, at least for PCs, because it does not tax the CPU consistently or very well. We're doing Cinebench R24 performance. This is the performance on battery versus battery. It's funny, the MacBook Pro M5, it actually scored higher when it was unplugged. So we got 1130 for our multi-score and 198 for our single. And when it was plugged in, we got 1112 and 197. So just slightly less when it was plugged in. So unplug your MacBook for more performance. I guess it's the lesson there. And then when the G14 was unplugged in performance mode, we got 845 and 105. So much higher performance from the MacBook in the Cinebench score when it was unplugged. Let's run Cinebench R24. Plugged in. The MSI Raider 18HX with the 285HX has the highest scoring score that I have currently compiled into this list. I might have some higher end scores. G14, 5060, Ryzen 9 270 on battery, got 845, 105, and these other numbers are plugged in values. And so the M5 is crushing single core performance even against desktop class laptop CPUs like the Intel 275HX or the AMD Ryzen 9955HX3D. Those scoring multi-core scores being much higher because of the much higher CPU wattage that the CPU can pull. And then the single core score though is just awesome on the M5 at 198. So generally speaking, a lot of applications can leverage the single core performance more often. So snappier, little clicking around. I mean, let's face it, all of these laptops are extremely responsive when opening and closing applications. But we're talking about shaving off all those milliseconds when opening and closing those applications, and that's where the M5 is going to shine. So 930. Interesting. So not much of an improvement. Single core is probably going to still be pretty similar to 105 or 115 or somewhere in that range. I'm not expecting too much of a difference when it's plugged in versus unplugged for single core. Blender benchmark comparison. So this is going to be useful for those of you that want to leverage your GPU for rendering, 3D animation work, stuff like that, to give you an idea of performance. Total score for the CPU is very, very low on the M5 as well as the Ryzen 9 270. So on Monster, 790 compared to 1227, Junk Shop 392 to 774, Classroom 440 compared to 6. The 5060 is just a much more powerful GPU if you're going to be doing a lot of 3D rendering. That said, obviously the M5 is powerful enough to do some 3D rendering, no problem. Here is our comparison graph for Blender. The Legion Pro 7i absolutely crushed it at over 7,000 total combined score with a 5080. I did not get any 5090 laptops on this list yet, but we'll add that soon. The 5070 Ti laptops coming in around 5,000 mark. The 5060 doing 3,600. And the M5 all the way down at 1600. So you can see how much farther ahead the NVIDIA card is compared to the MacBook lineup when it comes to Blender rendering. So if you're a 3D animator, definitely don't go with the MacBook unless you go for like the M4 Max or a M4 Pro, which will obviously score a lot higher in the Blender benchmark. There's a lot of issues currently with Mac gaming and Steam gaming. There's obviously like, can the game actually run with the native like Metal graphics engine? And there are quite a few games now that support that, but not like tons and tons. And then there's also like the Rosetta translation layer that you can use to run games, but it's not being ran natively, so performance through the translation layer will suffer. Maybe it's still good enough performance, especially on legacy titles, older titles, to get a good gaming experience. This filters from all of my games versus the games that are just supported officially on the Steam platform that claim to run on macOS. Here is Wildlife Extreme. So 80 FPS right now in this Wildlife Extreme. It goes to show you that you really can get some pretty dang good graphics at well over 60 FPS. Average frame rate was 71 FPS for this Wildlife Extreme. Steel Nomad, FPS, it's coming down, but it's around 15 right now, 14, 12, 11. It's still, the average is coming down. So now it's averaging right around 11 FPS. At least you can run Steel Nomad. 1134 for the Mac. Okay, so we're getting currently 24 FPS, right around double the FPS for GPU rendering speed compared to the Mac. A little bit more than double actually in Steel Nomad, which that actually lines up almost exactly with what we had going in Baldur's Gate 3. 23.7 FPS, a nice uplift over compared to the Mac with 1134. MSI Raider with a 5080 get 5,200, a 5090 gets close to a little over 6,000, maybe 6,000 to 6,500 range. And the 5070 Ti is doing around 3,500 to 4,000. The 5060 doing 2,368, and the MacBook Pro M5 doing 1,134. So again, the MacBook Pro M5 in this GPU-centric benchmark test really struggling to compete with the NVIDIA GPU for raw performance. So we're going to test basically everything that I have in my Steam library that Steam says is Mac compatible. Let's get into which games will run. Currently, out of my favorites, I have 11 titles, and in my uncategorized, we have 36. So that means a total of 47 out of over 250 titles. That gives us about a 19% claimed compatibility rate with my Steam library. Baldur's Gate 3 is next. We're gonna try to make these settings as identical as possible. All right, so 2560 by 1600 on both, 120 hertz refresh rate, no VSync, DLSS on quality, and FSR on quality. All right, in terms of visual fidelity, the G14 is just a lot clearer because it has DLSS on quality mode. Raw FPS looking at basically the same situation. We're at 95 FPS. and 167, 168 on the G14. By the way, this should give us our FPS range. Fully comes out, it'll give us our 1% low and I believe our average FPS. Oh, I think this must not be our average, but our highs and lows. 9121 must be the highs and lows. For the MacBook M5, 1% low looks to be about 21. 146 for our average FPS for the Zephyrus G14, 91 for our 1% low. Our actual FPS though is like around 65 to 75 range on the M5, and we're doing 147 right now. And the 1% low obviously is a lot smoother on the G14 as well. So average FPS for Baldur's Gate on the M5, I would say was 75, and we're around 149.92 for the G14. If we compare this value versus other laptops on the market, the G14 with the 5060 doing 149 FPS. The 5070 Ti really isn't that much of an upgrade because it's kind of a CPU bound game to some extent. So 180 FPS, 174 for our average FPS is going up to a 5070 Ti. The higher end 9955 HX3D pushing 231 FPS with the best 1% low performance out of all the laptops on the list. The average FPS not being as high because the GPU is only a 5070 Ti, but for the money, the Strix G16 with the HX3D chip is the best value, I would say, because all three of these laptops cost closer to $3,500 or more, and this 5070 Ti Strix is only $2,500, and that's assuming there's no sales. So overall, obviously, very good performance for the 5060 G14, plenty to play the game quite well, but the MacBook Pro 14 M5 providing plenty of good gameplay. 75 FPS is great to enjoy Baldur's Gate 3, especially since we're on ultra settings. Bloons TD2, like a one-on-one strategy battler type game. Our FPS in this is also really kind of crappy, only 20-something FPS. I don't know if this is being ran natively. It probably can be ran completely non-natively just fine. I don't think there's any graphical options other than just doing windowed versus full screen. Only 15 FPS right now in this extremely simple graphics game. Very low FPS, only 15 FPS, and this is the very beginning of the match. My guess is if you actually wanted to play this, they probably have some iOS or macOS version of this game. It works. We'll say it's compatible, but performance is really lackluster. Counter-Strike 2, I actually tried to run this, and then it tried to load the CSGO Legacy version, and when you load that, it actually says this is the outdated version and you can't play it with anyone else. So basically there's no support for Counter-Strike 2, even though they used to support Counter-Strike Global Offensive version. But we can hop into CSGO and just see what kind of FPS we could have gotten. This is the Legacy version of CSGO. Support ended on January 1st, 2024. If you launched Counter-Strike 2 and ended up here, your hardware is incompatible with Counter-Strike 2. Except Go thing or whatever to accept our changes is down here in the bottom right, and we can't press it, so we can't even change the resolution or change the full screen. Completely busted, unplayable Counter-Strike. And even if you could play, you could only play with bots. You could not play. So we're moving on to Cyberpunk 2077, MetalFX quality, DLSS on quality, and no frame gen on either, and no ray tracing on either. Low settings. Our goal is just to see what's our maximum FPS situation like with good visuals and low settings. We're doing 45 FPS on the M5, 100 FPS on the RTX 5060, 83 FPS for our 1% low is super, super good. So more than double the FPS on the RTX 5060, 107 FPS, 248 FPS. That's pretty brutal for the M5 chip. Plus 1% lows were beyond excellent for the 5060. Try to set this to be how I would actually test. Normally we set everything to ray tracing ultra, DLSS on quality, frame generation on with textures on high. We'll see which one loads faster this time. All right, so we're gonna let this value actually average out, and this will be the number we're gonna look at least for our average FPS. It does seem like the MacBook is actually running the benchmark in kind of a slow motion-y type of thing going on. It's like not at the right time scale even. It's kind of weird, never seen that before. So we had 50 FPS on average for the G14, and then for the M5, 23. So there's your Cyberpunk average, but if I were to actually to optimize the frame rate here, you would probably do something like performance No frame gen, medium, low preset, but with textures at least on medium, and frame gen on, probably performance up. It should run a lot better. Okay, so right now we're doing 95 FPS when I set it to these more optimal low settings. And so yeah, you can definitely get playable frames at QHD Plus with upscaling on lower graphics settings, medium textures with the MacBook Pro M5. Very nice. Cyberpunk 2077. You know, at these settings with the 5080, we're doing 125, 115, 116, 23 FPS with the MacBook Pro M5, and 50 with the Zephyrus G14. It's obviously a lot less powerful than 5070 Ti even. Dota 2, let's see, can I play Dota 2 offline? So video settings, we have everything maxed out. Everything is on with no maximum frame rate limits up to 240. All right, so right now the MacBook Pro M5 is doing 130 FPS approximately. We're gonna say 110 FPS for the MacBook Pro M5. Interesting, we may get more FPS on the M5. Obviously it's gonna be very good FPS all around, but since it's a CPU-bound game, single-threaded performance may actually be king here. I would not be surprised at all if the M5 actually won this test. That said, you'd probably be able to play this game at the max resolution and get the same FPS, because right now our GPU is only at 47% utilization and only 19 watts being utilized on the RTX 5060. I'll wait another minute or so for everything to come together, but it's so interesting. 115 FPS, it's like the exact same FPS, like quite literally almost, like bouncing around the exact same range. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. Well, this is gonna change our test a little bit. 95 FPS, 40, 50 FPS on for a 1% low, running extremely smooth, no issues. But surprisingly, the M5 is faster in Dota 2. Let's up the resolution to the max resolution and see if the FPS even changes at all. So yeah, so we're still at 99 FPS, even at the max resolution. So yeah, completely pointless having to lower the resolution in Dota 2. Fly Dangerously. This is a arcade racer, like a space sim. All right, I wanna make sure that everything's exactly the same. 2560 by 1600, 80 degrees field of view, frame rate caps 1000, low, high, none. Oh my gosh, okay, so look at the FPS difference. It's huge. 60 FPS versus 255 FPS. Okay, so this is a non-native game, non-metal game, but it still runs well enough. Here we go. So we're just gonna let them fly forward. You can see the FPS is more than triple, more than 3 times as high on the RTX 5060. We're gonna say 58 FPS for Fly Dangerously and 206 FPS for the RTX 5060. So about 3.5 times the FPS. Legion TD is a fun strategy game. It's mainly a 2-on-2 matchmaking, ranked. And so you have to work with your partner, teammate to kill the other king, basically. These are the tower defenses, and you can either invest in your economy or in your tower defenses, depending on what you want to do. So we'll put down one guy here. Right now we're only getting 28 FPS, 30 FPS, which is really shockingly bad. If we go to low, still only 31 FPS. That's crazy bad. So this is definitely not being run natively. Let's go very low. 31 FPS, 35, and this is the beginning. Like it gets way more complicated later. Now we're getting 45 FPS. So FPS is varying, like 45 FPS is way more reasonable, but you know, as we delete characters off the board, we're gonna get more and more FPS, I suppose. Now 60 FPS at the end of the wave, 47, 40 FPS. It's playable, but it's far from an ideal gameplay experience. Slay the Spire, and it's a really great game. It's like a roguelike deck building game, max resolution. And let's do 120 FPS. Obtain a curse and a random rare relic. That's really good, usually. All right, so we can do different types of attacks, and we'll defend once. All right, and there. That's an example of run around. It played smooth. And I would say, yeah, this is 100% playable, just as good as PC, with no issues. Totally accurate battle simulator. This is a very silly game that's just like a fun strategy game with all types of different scenarios that you can test out, and like lots of different like random strategy challenges for you to battle against. Simplistic graphics, but it's very physics-based gameplay. Average FPS right here. Before we start the fight, we're doing 172 versus 83, so about double the FPS on the 5060. And now that we've actually started the fight, we're doing 81, 82. Headbutters are not very effective here. Defeated, but average FPS 174 versus 80. Again, a little bit more than double, like 2.2 times the FPS with the 5060. Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings. So this is another AAA title. It's quite a few years old. We could set it to this resolution that we could also test with the Zephyrus G14. So 1920 by 1200. Let's just go for that. And we'll do ultra specs. This is looking pretty good. I don't know why we don't have a Steam overlay for our performance. This is actually looking really good, but we don't know what the FPS is at all. It feels like between 40, if I were to guess, I would say it feels like 40 to 50 FPS. I could probably enjoy playing The Witcher with this level of graphics. Oh my gosh, I might die here. Oh no, I died. Okay, so overall, these, I mean, we're on ultra graphics. It's playing smooth enough to enjoy the game. That's what I will say. Between 40 and 60 FPS, if I were to guess. Obviously, we could go to a lower resolution or settings and get more FPS by changing settings to like medium or low or something, but I don't think we need to. Yeah, running through the forest, I mean, it still feels good. And just imagine you can play this game completely on battery life for hours as well using the M5 if you were to play it on battery life. Very clearly good gameplay. Ark, survival of the fittest. It crashed. We'll try one more time. And it crashed again. Okay, so not compatible, like failed to run. Balatro. Balatro is one of my favorite games. It is a really fun poker-based strategy game that has really amazing pixelated graphics. And it looks like I'm about to lose this, but we're getting 50 FPS. So our resolution is set to a low resolution. Can we go up? Okay, so we can go to the full resolution. Oh, but now it's not playing smoothly. Oof, now it's like 5 FPS. So we can't run it at max resolution, but this is a game where you definitely don't need max resolution to enjoy it. Yeah, 1920 by 1200 will probably work fine. Looks like we crashed. Oh my. Okay, well, it's very clear that Balatro is completely playable when you play with the right settings. Whatever. But you can see that it's playing smooth. All right, so Balatro was a success and a great gaming experience. Batman Arkham City, will it run? No, it will not run. So Batman Arkham City is just, it's kaputs. All right, so this is a game that maybe could be compatible in some way if you can figure out how to make it compatible. But all right, Besiege. So Besiege, I think, is similar to the Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. General, 60 FPS lock. Let's go for QHD. It's 16 by 9. We can't set it to 16 by 10. Graphics, no anti-aliasing right now. Mesh deformation. Resolution is very high for textures. Shadows are on. Yeah, so you like build your own little battle machine robot thingy, and then you have it like attack the structure. I did not build that right, so it's not going to work. But you get the idea, and we're getting 45 FPS in this. So yeah, I mean, it's playable, and we can certainly change the graphical settings to make it even more playable if we wanted to, because a lot of the settings were on. We could turn some off to get over 60 FPS, I'm sure. Bioshock Remastered, an amazing game. I guess all you can do is set the resolution, and that's it. All right, so we'll just try 2560 by 1600. It's a really cool game. Graphics are, I think they still hold up pretty well, but definitely a lot more dated now. Okay, I'm trying to control using my 22 FPS right now. We're gonna need to turn some graphics down. Okay, there's the resolution. We just dropped the resolution. Let's go to 1920 by 1200 maybe. Okay. All right. Now we're in 38 FPS territory. We've entered the playable realm. All right. So really creative game world. Around 30 FPS, a lot of 1% low stutters though. Maybe even want to go to a little bit lower resolution. It's certainly in the playable realm and one that I would probably really enjoy playing overall, but the graphics they're way less than what you would expect. I don't know, honestly I was hoping you'd be getting more like 60 FPS in something like this. I'm guessing it's because it's not running natively. Okay, so we're just gonna say it's getting about 30 FPS. Yeah, playable. Just super barely playable. I'm sure if you were to lower the resolution some more, you could probably get it up into the 35, 45 FPS range and it would be much more playable. This is a similar game to Bloons TD Battles, another kind of 2D tower defense game that is fun. 48 FPS. Looks good. 45 FPS. Yeah, this is good. We don't need to play anymore to know that this is going to be very good gameplay and have a good time. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 claims to be Mac compatible. Look, I have 623 hours in this game. I played this game a lot in college. And you cannot play it on Mac. 32-bit applications are no longer supported. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 had the same error. Cuphead, really fun adventure game. All right, well, this one is like, it just needs a little bit of work. I can control the menu, and that's it. All right, well, this one is like, it just needs a little bit of work. And it would be, obviously the game is set to work, but the devs probably just abandoned it on the Mac OS, and now it's just no longer compatible. Divinity 2 Original Sin. This is a game from the makers of Baldur's Gate. So we have Metal up here. Another game that should run excellently, just like Baldur's Gate 3 did. 2560 ultra settings here in this game. I gotta say, it looks extremely comparable in terms of image quality. We're doing 99 FPS on the MacBook Pro M5 and 214 FPS with the RTX 5060. You can start walking around a little bit more. Now we're doing 85 FPS, 80 FPS now to 180. Very good performance on both, but obviously the 5060 is crushing the M5. And this is being ran on Metal. Does this have DLSS? This doesn't even have DLSS. So this is without DLSS in the picture. Enter the Gungeon. 100 FPS. Play. Sure. We'll do the pilot. Too bad it's not 120 FPS lock. It's still good enough. This is a roguelike game. Oh my gosh, it's a machine gun guy, and I can't figure out how to. 90 FPS. Things are looking great. This is a little save point, I think. Really good gameplay on the Mac. It's pretty much just as good as PC, I would say. This is the little map, so you can see where you are. Yeah, so I like it. Enter the Gungeon, perfectly playable. Everspace. This is another roguelike. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love roguelike games. It's not loading at all. Jackbox Party Pack. So there's 6 games here in total. If this one game works, I'm just going to assume the other ones work. This is a really fun trivia game you can play with your friends, and it seems to be working really well. No options for changing the resolution. I can tell it's not the full resolution. It still looks pretty good. Single player. Okay, so you can use a controller to play this. 2015. Okay, so this game's running great. I'm just gonna assume that the other ones also will run great. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. Let's see if this AAA title will work or not. So Shadow of Mordor, Middle-earth. It's really fun combat, and it's like an open-world single-player game. And the graphics are actually pretty good, in my experience. Advanced options. Okay, so we are on Ultra. Okay, 11 FPS. All right, so we're gonna need to turn down some settings here. I think probably just going for a lower resolution would be my first go-to, because I think we want more FPS than 11. I don't think this is running natively in Metal, because otherwise we would have the Metal overlay here. But I mean, you can see the graphics here are pretty dang good. We just gotta lower our resolution so that, yeah, 11.4 average FPS. Not great. We can go down to, yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be the resolution we're going to need. All right. Ooh, still only 15 FPS. We're going to need to turn down some more things. Only 15.58 FPS. Just go to low now. Wow, we still can't. Still at 16. Still completely unplayable, pretty much. I definitely would not want to play this game at this resolution and graphic settings with this FPS. So yeah, don't buy Shadow of Mordor for the MacBook Pro M5, at this point at least. No Man's Sky. I mean, this is as comparable of a setup as I can, I think, get. Surprisingly great performance on the MacBook M5. Average FPS is right around 60, 81 FPS with the G14, and the visuals are still better on the G14. I'm looking at all the details on the ground and the foliage, and I don't know, it's almost like full color HDR mode is active on the G14. Wow, it was stuttering more on the G14 than on the M5 there for a little while. A big 1% low stutter, probably because we're out of VRAM right now on the 5060. So you probably want to adjust some settings down. 55 FPS over here on the M5, 76 FPS on the RTX 5060. Steam is saying we're getting 150 FPS. Okay, maybe we are getting 150. Maybe this is bugged. Okay, so frame view is giving us 74 FPS. I think this is right. I don't know. So maybe it's bugged in No Man's Sky right now. I don't know. For now, I think we got to do more investigation to know what's going on, because we got 140, 150 FPS up here, 75 here, and 74 there. Really weird behavior, but definitely I would say the game still looks better on the G14. So this is called Osmos. It's kind of like Snake IO. It's basically the bigger circle wins fight. It's like a puzzle game. It's really fun. It's not a very long game. It's going to be beat in like an hour or two. But that one worked fine. Overlord. 32-bit applications are no longer supported. Paladins. I don't even know if Paladins is an active game at this. I'm guessing it's not. Path of Exile. Let's see. Okay, so Path of Exile even has Metal Engine support. Okay, I think I may have crashed it when I turned off triple buffering. Let's see what the defaults do at this resolution. Oh, well, okay. 45 FPS. Yeah, we cannot see our wattage pull, so I don't know what the wattage is like. But right now, it's just in the barely playable. All right, let's see here. I'm really impressed that we're running 3K resolution and still getting playable frames. 54 FPS. Oh, okay, I kind of caught on fire there. 51 FPS, Path of Exile 1, 3K resolution. Let's go to a lower resolution. Going to 50%. Wow, still 60 FPS. So our FPS actually did not go up that much. And now we're getting all these little artifacts and jaggies. Actually, let's just go back to the full. And let's go to FSR, balanced. Is it locked to 60 FPS? Because we're only getting 59 point something. I think we're CPU bound, so we're not going to get over 60 FPS no matter what we do. NIS, and let's go 77%. Okay, so now we're getting 67 FPS. The game looks good, and there's pretty much no stutters. It's like a perfectly smooth playable experience. I want to get a comparable benchmark. Just set everything to max. So with everything set to max, all the settings turned on, 65 FPS in the coasts. So there you go. Easily achievable, 50 FPS, right around the full resolution, 60 FPS if you lower some settings down. Even on maximum settings, we're still in the 60 FPS range. All right, DirectX 12, turn off VSync, triple buffering disabled, anti-aliasing, sure, NIS, no upscaling right now. We'll set everything to high. So 55 FPS with the M5, and this one, we're doing 150, 154, 155. All right, so 162 FPS, 116 for the G14. So very good performance overall for Path of Exile, and much better, obviously, than the M5. RimWorld is a game that, as long as it's compatible, okay. So we're running in Metal. So we have the Metal engine here. We're doing 3K resolution, 100 FPS. This is going to be very, very playable. So RimWorld, no issues. Rocket League, let's check it out. It's trying to open, and then it just doesn't open. It claims to be compatible, but it doesn't seem like it, given the fact that it just literally won't open. So that's a fail. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So DLSS on quality, ray tracing off. All right, we're gonna do highest settings on both. 35 FPS on the MacBook Pro M5, 98 FPS on the RTX 5060. In the majority of games, we found that the RTX 5060 is doing about 2.5 to 3.5 times more FPS. Now we're doing about 170. So yeah, it's about almost 3 times the performance on the RTX 5060. Pretty much, if it's a GPU-bound game, you're looking at 2.5 to 3 times the performance on the RTX 5060. If it's a CPU-bound game, that's when you're seeing some really good performance on the M5 chip. So the M5 got 39 FPS on average. The G14 got 116 FPS. Civilization 5, let's see. No, it just won't work. Civilization 6. Civilization 6 is damaged and cannot be opened. You should move it to the trash. Really? What is this? I've never seen that error before. So let's try Knights of the Old Republic. Basically one of the first Star Wars games that has just really good RPG elements and good story from what I hear. So only 1024 by 768 resolution supported. And we cannot make it. The biggie size button doesn't work. Look at these graphics. Oh, 240 FPS, folks. 240 FPS gaming here on the MacBook Pro M5, everybody. Hello. This is awesome. But it's in a tiny window. So maybe if I zoom in the camera.
You fall out of your bunk and hit your head. The Endar Spire is the ship we're stationed on. This ship. You probably don't even know who I am, do you?
The voice acting is really cool, right? Like, ah, ooh, okay. So there we go. We got some clothes on. But you can see how this game has pretty basic graphics, but is really complex story with good acting, and people love this game. Like, people spend hundreds of hours replaying this game, and very playable. Looks like it's good support. It's just we got to figure out what to do with the resolution. The resolution is all funky. Yeah, this does not seem to be going. All right, we'll stop Stellaris. Tomb Raider. All right, so 2560 by 1600. Quality is going to be ultimate. Same resolution in both right now. This is going to be a non-native game, I believe. So this is obviously an older title, but we're still getting playable frames on the M5 on ultimate settings. Obviously, if you go to lower, I think we were seeing over 100 FPS, like 140 FPS or something. 39 FPS, ultimate QHD plus resolution, no frame gen or DLSS or ray tracing in this game because it's so old, but graphics do actually look pretty good in this game. 130 FPS on average for the RTX. Well, actually, sorry, I just reset it. 150 right now. Very nice overall performance on the 5060. The FPS on the M5 is just going to be barely playable range, you know, like 45. As long as it's a consistent frame time, it's going to be playable, but it won't be nearly as responsive as, you know, the 150 plus FPS that we're getting right now on the 5060. Average FPS 44.2 versus 151. Yeah, that's a huge difference in performance. Stellaris. This is an epic strategy game. It's kind of like a real-time strategy game, but also really slow-paced. It says it's running, but it doesn't actually appear to be doing anything. War Thunder, kind of like World of Tanks, I believe. You get fighter jets and different airplanes, and you fight a bunch of in a big aerial battle with other players and NPCs mixed together. I can't press play for some reason. I don't know if it's still loading or... So we're going to count War Thunder as a maybe, but it didn't seem to work during the initial testing. Looks like Warhammer 40,000 did not run. It seems to stop the moment we try to run it, though. What about Dawn of War 2 Chaos Rising? Looks like it suffers the same problem. As soon as it tries to launch, it fails too. So we're just going to consider probably all these Dawn of Wars to be failures, probably. Okay, so Dawn of War 2 also did not work. Let's see if the original Witcher 1 game... Wow. I bet you this cinematic is epic. There we go. High. We'll raise these up too. So max graphical settings.
The Northern Kingdoms nursed their wounds for 5 years.
Okay, so looks like I have yet to figure out how to attack. I have to click my mouse cursor right on him. Oh my.
Your famous magic.
In due time, Lambert.
Yeah, these graphics are not that bad for a really old game. And we're clearly above 60 FPS. I don't know what FPS we're doing, probably over 120. It's a really old game, so it should be really optimized. So, cool. The Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, very playable. Okay, so we got 20 games out of my full 290 plus Steam library. We got 20 games that actually ran perfect, launched, everything was great. And a lot of these are actually AAA games, like The Witcher, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, Divinity's Original Sin 2, No Man's Sky, Path of Exile, and the Tomb Raider series. If Apple actually invested like $100 million into paying developers to optimize their games for the Metal engine, gaming on Mac could be great. Currently, it's still a super big flop, in my opinion, because out of the 290 games, I don't want to give up access to all those games. Like, are you kidding me? Come on. If you don't have a game library already, or you're just not much of a gamer and you just want to occasionally play, then this is fine. You can definitely find some great AAA games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Baldur's Gate 3. You can find something worthwhile to play on Mac, but if you already have a game library, it's like throwing all those games in the trash, with one exception that you could do cloud gaming like GeForce Now, and play on PC through that game streaming, assuming that you have a great internet connection. I think that the hardware on Mac is reached a point where it's just like amazing for entry-level gaming, especially on battery, since you can get the same performance plugged in or unplugged. And it's amazing for video editing, amazing for Photoshop. It's amazing for productivity in general because it's a good screen and good thermals. It doesn't get that hot in your lap, and responsive, good keyboard, good trackpad, good speakers, and good value for your money that you're spending, except for certain key things like software compatibility still. Like if you're a gamer, seriously, you can find top sellers just for Mac, like Crusader Kings 3, Elder Scrolls Online, EVE Online, Stardew Valley, MW2 and MW3 were supposedly compatible, but they just failed. Stellaris supposedly compatible, but just failed. I would not take the fact that it says that this is Mac compatible as truth until you actually try to confirm that it actually runs on that type of Mac, because maybe that's Mac compatible when it's on a high-end desktop type Mac or with a M4 Pro or M4 Max only, which is a more powerful GPU. So as we saw today, literally only 20 out of the 48, whatever percentage that is, it's less than half of the games that were supposedly Mac compatible would even run on the M5 Mac. Plus, I do think there's a lot of games you could get running through emulators. So to summarize, the MacBook experience is a much better unboxing and setup. You got more privacy on the macOS. You get better performance when in battery mode in particular. You get longer overall battery life on the MacBook. But when it comes to software compatibility, in particular for games, you still get a huge advantage going for a PC like a Zephyrus G14. And when it came down to game compatibility in Steam, we had 48 games that were claimed to be compatible, but actually only 20 of them ran properly, which is terrible. It's less than 10% of my game library were actually working properly. So even if Steam says it's a Mac compatible game, do not count on it yet. And remember, if the game's not compatible, you can always refund it on Steam, I think within a short period of time. So if you're after just a general use computing device, both of these are going to be great. I would say the MacBook is a little bit better in that sense, but the hardware is going to be so much better on the GPU side if you were to go with the Zephyrus G14. Not only is it better at actual productivity tasks that utilize the GPU, but it's so much better in games, in both compatibility and also in game performance. That said, if you're a casual gamer and you just want to find an occasional game to play, the MacBook is perfectly capable of doing that, but you have to be very selective about which games you actually pick and choose. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. So that's my breakdown of the Zephyrus G14 versus the MacBook Pro. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. Brandon out.